All right. Well, as I mentioned, there was a co-governance or stop co-governance meeting in Orewa over the weekend, and it went off. You'll know of stop co-governance if you listen to the platform because we've had its founder, Julian Batchelor, on a couple of times, and a wee while back when a public venue in Whangarei tried to cancel his group and cancelled the booking he'd made for a meeting there. We covered that story. The Free Speech Union got involved and they changed their mind. And Julian Batchelor, who set up Stop Co-Governance, he's published a book and he's holding these meetings. I think he's got 30 or more planned around the country. One of them was in Orewa over the weekend. But social media over the weekend was dominated by pictures from that meeting, which would purport to show, Nazis being the people at the meeting, being mean to a bunch of people who turned up who didn't seem much interested in what was going to be discussed at the meeting, and the police were involved. Well, what I got from social media was a rather confused picture, but all the pearl-clutching Liberals from Massey University were all saying the same thing, so I knew immediately it would not be true. And I thought the best way to figure out what had happened at that meeting, rather than watching the mainstream media, would be talk to the man who organised it, Julian Batchelor of Stop Co-Governance, and he joins us now. Julian, welcome back to the platform. Good to be talking to you.
Hi, Sean.
Hi.
Yeah.
Okay, run us through. Just take me through the background. Where was this meeting in Orewa? Was it paying to go along? Had you hired the venue? What was the setup?
Right. It was the Orewa Community Centre, and it was we paid for it, and so we started setting up about 1 o'clock, and the meeting was to start at 3, and everything was going well. The room started to fill at 2:30, and we had all the tables out and everything all set up and ready to go, and the room was pretty much full by 3 o'clock, and then suddenly at the back of the meeting, about 50 Maori came in with banners and placards and what have you. And they started shouting and screaming, and then a guy came up the middle of the aisle, between because we have an aisle dividing the room into two, going up the middle as you usually do, like a church. And he was coming up the middle, sort of like a guy at the All Blacks doing a haka and rolling his eyes and poking his tongue out and shouting and screaming. And so we had to deal with that, and then everybody in the other group of Maori at the back were screaming and shouting, and some of them came to the side.
Were they all Maori, Julian, or were some of them?
No. There was probably about, I don't know, there was a few Europeans in there, but you know what? To be honest, you can't tell who's Maori and who's not now because everybody says
no. Okay, so there were a group of
500.
Julian, I'm just going to suggest, with the greatest respect, maybe it's the protesters. Why don't we could just call them the protesters, and then the colour of their skin or their ethnicity doesn't matter.
Okay, but we can call them that, but that's what they were. We could call them protesters, but they were mostly Maori. They were people. Maori
a group of mainly Maori protesters. Okay. Did they look organised, like they had a plan, they knew what they were doing?
Oh, yeah, no, they'd organised to screw the scrum. They'd come in to just disrupt and to stop the meeting. So, anyway, then suddenly, a whole lot of police arrived, and I thought, oh, this is fantastic.
Had you called the police?
No. I don't know how the police got there, but suddenly a whole lot of police just poured in like bees into a honey
because they're
pot.
really hard to get if your house gets burgled or something. But you're saying, so how many police did we have turn up?
Well, the TV3 report last night said there was 30. That's an exaggeration. It was more like, I don't know, 12, maybe 15.
That's still a lot of police.
The police were there, and there's a lot of police. And the big chief of the Orewa police, we had a debrief with the police at the very end, and he said every single policeman in Orewa came to the meeting. So if there was another event that was happening, in Orewa at that time, there would have been no policemen to attend it. They were all at our meeting.
Okay. Had you asked them, or you talked to them before the meeting? You talked to the police at Orewa? No? Wow.
No, they must have had intel about this, or they must have had intel about it because there was stuff on social media about, Maori organising themselves to come and protest.
Well, hang on. When you say Maori, what groups?
Protesters.
Oh, the
I don't know. There's some group. I don't.
Aotearoa Liberation Movement seem to be all over this on social media. Now they seem to have a very tangata whenua bent. They're really secretive, this group, about who funds them, and all you can do is email them. They're also into veganism and animal welfare, which is I found a bit strange. I tried to dive into them last night, Julian, without much, but they're an organised kind of group who seem a bit, less than transparent to me. But also I note that Massey University Student Union and their student union leader were pretty involved in the media last night. Did any media have a tip-off and turn up?
No, there was a Maori TV station from Wellington. A reporter came up with his own camera, nice guy actually, and he said, "Can I film the thing?" I said, "Absolutely, you just go for it, do whatever you like, mate." And there was the local Orewa press, but apart from that, I think apart from that, there was nobody. And I think what that's done is that there was lots of cameras. Everybody had cameras out.
Well, everyone does these days, don't they? They got their phone.
And Murray, and everybody it was like waving their wand in the air. Everyone was filming. So it got all over social media, and then TV3 picked it up. And the Herald, David Fisher's just done an item this morning, which is absolutely full of lies and half-truths.
Oh, look, I haven't had time to see that yet, but it's David Fisher. What would you expect, Julian? What would you expect?
Mate, he's the Pinocchio Fisher.
Okay, but so you've got all these protests. How many protesters? 30, 40?
I would say there could have been 50. It's hard to tell.
Okay, and how many people who had actually come to the meeting because they had seen it advertised and they wanted to hear what you had to say?
Well, some people say 150, some people say 200.
All right, so you got these two groups of people. It was chaos. What did the police do in response to the possible chaos and what looked from the selective pieces of social media? I see an incident that was getting quite heated at times.
Well, the police, what they did is they stood between the crowd and the supporters and the protesters, and with their arms folded and the sort of the you're not going any further type stance, and they just stood there. They didn't do anything. And afterwards, the police chief of Orewa with his little hat on and everything, and a couple of the sergeants came along and said, "Hey, we want to help you with the rest of the tour, and this is how you do it. You make it a private event, and you have some bouncers at the door, and because you paid for the hall, we paid for the hall. So they said you have a couple of bouncers at the door, and you just discern with people like a nightclub who's coming in, who's not, and say this is a private function, pretty much like you would if you were having a party at your own house in the middle of Auckland. So you don't let everybody in. You just say, no, we don't know you. Out you go. You're not coming in. And that's what we're going to do with the events from now on. So there won't be any more of this nonsense. And they can protest outside if they want to and do whatever they want, but they're not coming into the meeting. So that's we're working with the police on that. The police said they'd back us up with that. If anybody came in and did that again, they would be, because it's a private event, they're going to be trespassed and taken out. That's perfect. Yeah. So the police have been good. Police have been good.
Yeah. Could you continue with the event in Orewa, or did you have to call it off?
Yeah, we did do, but it was like, there was static on the radio, so we couldn't really. I continued, I finished it, I did everything, and there was people were listening. They could hear. We've got a great sound system sponsored by people all around the country who have helped with that. Generous people who are helping with the cause, and so we have all the gear, and we had plenty of volume, and we got through it. But I'm looking for the day when we can have a proper meeting with 1,000 people, and I can actually say what I want to say and go through all the material. And have a decent, intelligent Q&A time and answer questions and really get this out in the public domain, because it's disgraceful what's going on with the Waitangi Tribunal and the Treaty of Waitangi Act.
I note that...
it's a fraud.
Yeah, I note that David Fisher's piece is behind the paywall, Julian, so I'm not going to bother paying for it. But the headline is, how a property dispute with Maori triggered his campaign. Is that the case?
That's the one, man. I just saw that. I've actually just sort of, read it. But I thought, David Fisher, mate, your nose is as big as a bloody, as a Kaiwaka Kumara. You know what? He's such a big porky teller, and he twists the truth. He's not honest. There's a whole lot of stuff in that just as a skim read that is completely dishonest. He's a shocker, mate. I might go to the
press. Go to the media council. The media council is where you go.
The media council, Sean. You can help me.
All right. To be honest, the most effective thing to do is go to the courts with a case of defamation. Don't bother going because it's all a pretty closed shop. The old media council and the BSA. Julian, was anyone hurt yesterday?
Nobody was hurt, but nobody was hurt. There was, to their credit, the protesters are not violent, and they're not. They're not violent, which is great. But we're not going to have them in any more of the meetings, and the police are going to work with us to make sure that doesn't happen. We've been cancelled out of meetings all over the country. Kaiwaka, 5 different.
Can you? Where, and on what grounds?
Just because they didn't want co-governance, and also they don't want to talk about co-governance.
Are these public venues or private venues that have cancelled you?
Public venues, and also but they say, some of them say, we're concerned for safety, we have safety issues, but I've got a big businessman who has said we will put up an unlimited bond for any damage to a building, and there has been no damage.
So where have you now been, and is this as a result of this protest that you've been cancelled, or was this already going on?
This was already going on, so we've been cancelled out of Hamilton.
Hamilton, we're in Hamilton. We're in Hamilton. Just let me write this down.
We were at the Indian Centre, and they were targeted. The Indian Centre was targeted by people, and the Indian Centre. What happens is they read the media reports. The media is on the side of the protesters. There's no doubt about that, and they write an inflammatory article to put the wind up all the owners of venues.
Okay, so Hamilton, the Indian Centre.
We can't have you here.
Yeah, Hamilton, the Indian Centre. Though that's not quite a public venue. That's the Indian Centre's venue.
Yes, I know, but it's a venue that anybody can hire.
Yeah, where else? Besides Hamilton,
we've had Kaiwaka. Kaiwaka was 5 times. We've just had one at Waipu where somebody's had a death threat against them.
Okay, what was the venue at Waipu? What was the venue at Waipu?
Well, we had the Coronation Hall was cancelled in Waipu, and then we went to One Tree Point, and I think it was the community centre. I've got somebody else organising this, so this is why I'm sound a little bit vague. But we've got the community centre at One Tree Point was booked, and the wife of one of the people who organised that place has had a death threat, and they said, mate, we better pull out of this because it's getting, this.
Wow.
But this is what the protesters want.
Okay, Hamilton, Kaiwaka, Waipu, where else? Where else besides that?
Kerry. Oh, you know what? David Fisher's lied about Kerry in his latest article, because we actually sat down with the minister and the staff of the church, just before the event up there, and we drilled them about you're going to get a flood of calls from protesters. This is how you field them, and let's keep going with the event. And the minister and his staff, they were fantastic. They said, you know what? We're not going to be bullied. We're going to stand up for free speech. And so when they rang up, I heard them. I heard the lady in the church saying to people, hey, we're a free speech place. You don't have to come. If you don't have to come. And if you are going to come, just be respectful. This is the house of God. Thank you. Next call. And so she just answered all the calls like that, and everything went beautifully. So the church was completely behind us. David Fisher's misreported that.
And where else? So you said 5 places? That's 4?
Hamilton, Kaiwaka, Whangarei. Well, you know about Whangarei.
Yeah, and Whangarei, okay.
And Kerry. They had a good go at Kerry.
Yeah. Despite all that, how's it going? And what sort of feedback are you getting?
Mate, honestly, Sean, we're inundated. Absolutely inundated. People are joining the movement like you would not believe, and I'm getting support, donations from everywhere. I've sold 500 of my books. I hope people can buy those 500 of the books. They're only $1 each. A businessman has paid for a print of 20,000 now, so that we can get them down to $1. This is not a business, mate. We're getting everything out at cost and getting the book into the hands of people. In letterboxes and business people. We're posting them out to all the mayors, all the MPs, all the councillors around the country. I've got a network of people that are very influential, very powerful, who are working behind this to help make it happen. It's honestly, it's so exciting. And I think that it's so necessary. We're running out of time. We've got to get 100,000 people to a protest in Auckland just before the election at the Auckland Domain. And we're running out of time. So I need people to get books out. My little book. You've been sent them, Sean. You've probably read that book. We've got those out, so I want to get those into every letterbox in the country.
Yeah.
So if people can just do their street, that's what we want. Just put them in the letterbox of just your street.
Yeah.
And we're well organised. Everything's going well.
Yeah.
But we just have to contend with protesters.
And you feel like you actually
and
have you have the police saying they have given you a way to not get disrupted by these protesters.
They're going to help us. That's what they've said. We're going to work with you. They've given us a strategy. We're going to go with that, and we're going to work with the police to make sure that we can have proper free speech. We can run the meetings uninterrupted and not be interrupted by the rebel.
All right, Julian. Just one other thing. I noted over the weekend in an interview, Chris Hipkins seemed to indicate and has been indicating that co-governance is not off the agenda for the Labor Party. Indeed, the Resource Management Act currently before Parliament would seem to have quite a lot of it. And also, I was interested to see Erica Stanford, the immigration spokesperson for the National Party, say in an interview over the weekend that they have a Maori caucus and they wouldn't consider doing anything in immigration without consulting with iwi. Might it be that the National Party accepts the tenets of co-governance as well?
Look, in my opinion, the National Party needs a complete reset when it comes to co-governance. And they are so at sea. They need to read my book. They need to get historically savvy. They need to know what's going on, and they need to get with the plan. Honestly, the National Party has got to reset the hard drive. They are just all at sea. Erica Stanford, truly. She's a history-ignorant politician, and there's many of them now in all the parties. And don't believe a word of the Labor Party saying, "Oh, we're going to backpedal a bit on co-governance." They're not. They take their foot off the accelerator for a second, and as soon as if they get back in, they'll put it flat to the boards.
Yeah.
And co-governance is everywhere already. It's infiltrated the society. It's like a cancer that's got through absolutely everything. And you can see that there's brainwashing in schools. We were cancelled out of the school in Mangawai, the primary school, and. The guys, the schools have signed up to support Te Tiriti and the Maorification of New Zealand.
Yeah.
Mate, this is North Korea.
Well, maybe not yet, Julian. Julian, I thank you for coming on this morning and giving your side of the story, and I've invited. It's just very hard to find out who these people are who run these protests. I'm just going to say to any of them listening again, you are more than welcome to ring in and give your side of the story. I thank you for giving yours today, Julian, and good luck with it. Oh, by the way, just want to say a couple of people have texted saying, how do we get in touch to help Julian, please? You got a website or something or not?
They can call me personally, 0274.
Oh, you don't? No, don't do that, Julian. You'll get doxed and everything. Don't put your number out over the air.
Okay, we've got a website. It's called stopcogovernance. It's just one word, stopcogovernance.kiwi.
All right.
And we think you're incredible. Sean, you're the only radio station that started up at the beginning. You had the gonads to actually come and get behind us, and we've put a mention of you in our books saying you were the only media agency to go with us at the beginning.
I'll tell you what, Julian, I want to make it clear, I'm not behind you, but I think this is an issue, and you're part of the debate on that issue, and I live in a democracy, and freedom of speech and freedom to debate difficult ideas is what the platform's behind, and always will be.
Thank you.
Thank you, mate. Have a good day. Thank you. Julian Batchelor, spokesperson for Stop Co-Governance.